Around flowers for a little
based
bit,
on
kind of get that whole philosophy.
my industry, that's most often
And it's not fair.
it has some kind of
The rose has been on this earth for 35 million years. We've seen it appear in poetry, literature, classical artwork, popular movies, and everywhere in between. In the past, the rose has been used by royalty and varying religious groups as a symbol for love, beauty, politics, war, and purity. In today's world, we are quick to see the rose as a symbol of love, but how does the way a rose is presented affect the way someone understands it, and does it differ person to person?
So when you see a rose, what is the first thing you think of?
My mom's perfume.
So what do you think are some things other people might think of?
Other flowers.
So when people see a rose, you think they just go, oh, that's just a flower? Okay. Have you seen roses in like any movies or anything like that?
I've seen this dog movie that my brother watched. It's in a person's backyard. His dog plays around, and there's a bunch of rose bushes that I see a lot.
So roses are a popular flower. So they're popular to grow in your yard, but do you think they're also, a rose is like something that's popular to buy at the store, to like give to someone?
Kind of.
Is there a certain time of the year or holiday where you see roses a lot more than you normally would?
Valentine's Day.
Why do you think roses are so popular on Valentine's Day?
Because most of the colors of them are Valentine colors, and they smell really good to some people. That when you have somebody you love, you can give roses to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you see a rose, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Thorns. They're so pokey. They're so pretty, but you know, roses have thorns so that deer can't eat them.
Okay, so you think of the physical flower, you don't really think of what it can represent.
You mean like Valentine's Day and American capitalism?
Could you elaborate on that?
The best thing about Valentine's Day is the cheap chocolate, and love is just a chemical, it's not real. And therefore all the symbolism behind it is stupid.
Okay, so another person, why would the meaning of a rose come to their mind?
Beauty and the Beast with the flower, and it's like it's thorny, so like you can't get close to him because he's a beast, he's afraid, and he looks so intimidating, but when you get close to him he's a pretty flower and the petals are falling off the longer that nobody loves him because people need to love each other.
How much impact do you think society has on the way people interpret roses?
All of it.
Could you give some examples? Or?
All of it. The heart-shaped boxes, you know, the original heart design was actually supposed to be two hearts sewn together, so that's dramatic and morbid.
So can you tell me some things roses can represent and what they would look like?
Wild roses are a prominent theme in poetry because it's the whole sense of rawness with the thorns and the how they don't really look like these genetically mutated to have as many petals as possible. They're just simple and they're beautiful like that. The red rose is passion and the white rose is true love.
Do you think every kind of rose or way that it is shown, you know, all these different kinds like colors or how they're presented, do you think they all have something in common besides the physical flower?
They all smell the same, no matter what color it is or whether it's wild or genetically engineered. They all smell the same, and I think that's a good symbolism for people.
So, you know, there's a bunch of different meanings, the different kinds of roses. Why do you think they change so drastically between the roses if it's still just a rose?
Because people are really fixated on things like the stupid image of a heart that has absolutely nothing to do with it. It's still the same object, but society puts all these meanings onto the tiny variations.
So, do you think the same thoughts go through everyone's mind when they see a specific show of a rose?
I think most people just think it's a flower. I think it's kind of ingrained, so like when it is Valentine's Day, it's I'm gonna get a dozen roses because that's the right thing to do. It's kind of been ingrained to be the right thing to do, but I think when people actually just see the flower, it's just a flower.
Do you have a unique or personal view on the type of rose?
I really like the purple roses. They're really uncommon and I'm shallow and that's why I like them. I always used to like dry the petals and keep them because they smelled nice, but it's a flower, guys.
So we're gonna show you some pictures.
Reminds me of salsa dancing because like they put it in their mouth and like they do the dancing and then they pass it back and forth and it's really passionate. A lot of people feel pressured to get that for like whenever it's a woman's birthday or Valentine's Day or anniversary, like that's like the go-to gift. I think that's stupid. You should find something more personal depending on your lady friend. Is true and pure and innocent and nothing can lay hands on their perfect love. Well, originally flowers were placed on coffins to cover the stench of rotting people. Nowadays, I think it's both tradition and kind of the symbolism.
Okay, awesome. So, when you see a rose, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Warmth, love, petals, soft, comfort.
So, you don't think of like the physical flower, but you think of the meaning.
Yes.
Okay. So, why do you think that comes to your mind?
Probably because of what I've used it for, what I've been told it represents, and probably there's some type of a memory too that is back there of when I've given one, when I've received.
So, how much impact do you think society has on the way people interpret roses?
I think a lot, because I knew what it meant when I was a little child too.
Can you explain some things that roses can represent and then what they would look like?
I think that roses to me represent kind of a commercialism, but I also look at it as they represent where relationships have gone. They represent hope. They represent, again, warmth and comfort, and usually they are celebrating an event.
Do you have any specific examples that you can think of that specific rose means something, say like colors or the way they're...
I don't, but I know my wife does, and I know that each color of rose represents something else. Mm-hmm. Like I would not probably give on Valentine's Day my wife anything other than a red rose.
So why do you think the meaning changes so drastically if it's still just a rose?
To get back probably to your first question, probably because of culture. I think color brings excitement. So if it was a white rose, I would think plain. But what gave me that meaning? Probably seeing examples around like my grandparents. Here's some money when I was younger, go get your mom this for Valentine's Day. Or I would see it in a movie, or I would see it throughout society, but I don't always let the color dictate, but there definitely is part of the decision-making process.
So do you think the same thoughts go through everyone's mind when they see a specific show of a rose?
I don't think so, but I believe that within the age groups it is.
So you think people can have a unique or personal view on a specific rose?
I do, yes.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any personal ideas of what a rose means to you, or any specific roses?
In my mind, I go back to kind of like a black and white 50s movie of what a rose kind of means. I think it means like a commitment, something that we're sharing. It means something more than a thank you. I think the simplest, the red rose, the dark red rose probably has the strongest meaning.
So when you see a rose, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Smell it. Look at it.
So you think of the physical flower and not like the meaning.
Yeah, if you've been around flowers for a little bit, you kind of get that whole philosophy in an artist, not just a loving way. It's like you look at a candle. It's a candle.
So why do you think the meaning of the rose would come to mind?
Well, there's all the different meanings between the different colors of the roses. True love is the white one, I believe. Well, I just think they're pretty and they smell nice.
So there are different ways people can interpret different kinds of roses, whether like depending on the way they're presented or if they're given or if you just pick one up like a florist, you know, as part of their job. Do you think that they have something that ties them all together instead of just the flower?
I think love and sympathy and all that stuff.
So do you have any personal ideas, or do you have a specific kind of rose that you feel something special about?
Like I say, I like creating them and giving them and receiving them, but there's nothing special other than just the general philosophy of love in a day.
Okay, so when you see a rose, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
For me personally, usually I associate it with some kind of memorial based on my industry. That's most often if someone's coming in a lot of times for a rose tattoo, it has some kind of connotation with like a loved one
So you kind of think of more of the meaning behind the rose and not the physical flower.
Yeah.
So do you think in society in general, do you think it's always been something that's been understood about a particular rose and what it means?
Well, actually, we've lost a lot of the meaning historically, especially with Europe and any places where there were more pervasive species of rose. All the different rose colors and specific breeds had established meanings, and they would be used specifically for those things. Like a certain color rose was always meant to be a reference to passion, a certain one would always be in reference to loss. Having certain colored rose patterns on your coat of arms had specific meanings that could be recognized by anybody seeing it.
So how much impact do you think society has on the way people interpret roses?
I think it has everything to do with it. Commercialism probably has the most to do with it in our current culture, mostly because things like Valentine's Day, I mean, the industry of the rose has frankly gotten out of hand. I mean, it's a plant, it grows. But for some reason, this one specific flower around a certain time of year is $60 for a dozen.
Do you think there's a meaning or something that ties them all together besides the just physical flower, like all the different kinds of colors or way they're presented, a single or a dozen?
Well, the pervasive thing about the rose is that it's a beauty item. I mean, it has a lot of texture, it has depth, it has variety, but it also has its natural defense mechanism. It's not like a daisy, it's not just this field flower. It's a vine, it's aggressive, it protects itself. So I think a lot of that has to do with its popularity and a little bit of its exclusivity. Can't remember when it was, but I know there was a period where only certain levels of nobility were allowed to even grow them. And again, whether or not that's because they just wanted to, they decided to make it special or it was special in the first place, I honestly don't know. I think it's circular. I think that it's special because it's been always special, but it's always been special because we've made it special. So it's open to multiple meanings because it's not a really simple plant, would be my theory.
So how popular is the rose, like in a tattoo form, like any kind of format?
The rose is probably still one of the most popular designs. Largely, I think half of it is due to the fact that people think it's special, and so it's very often used. It's not necessarily feminine, it's not necessarily masculine, but it's appealing to the client because it can be used as a centerpiece, or it can be just added in as an accessory. It can be a background, it can be a foreground, it can be just a simple little, very basic rose emblem. And I think from the tattoo artist perspective, it's very appealing because of that same nature. We can use it for just about anything. If someone comes in and says, I want to get something to fill this space, I'm like, well, I can make a rose to fit that space, and it'll look good.
Do you have anything you want to say about rose tattoos or anything you want to talk about that's interesting?
I think it's interesting that there's so many ways that they can be represented. Like I said, the simplest, most even, flat rendering of a rose tattoo is a very two-dimensional, blocky image. It's super simple. I've had the opportunity to do those all the way up to photorealistic representations where you bring in an actual photograph of a rose and we capture that. And I think that that's one of the cool things about the rose is that every stage in there still looks good.